So we're gonna get the meeting started. I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. And tonight we have Boy Scout Troop 802 here with us to help lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's all stand.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Scouts. You guys had a chance to, I think, talk with the city attorney a little bit before the meeting, and then even got a tour. Did you guys go see the jail and all the other stuff down around City Hall? Did you have a good time? Yeah. Excellent. Well, we're glad you're here. I'm glad you're here learning about city government. All right. That takes us down to proclamations and presentations. First up, we're going to have Rob Hill, who's going to help us with an acknowledgement of the agencies who assisted with 2019 OSU Homecoming. Hi, Rob. How are you?
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good.
Mayor, councilors, good evening. Again, Rob Hill, Emergency Management Director for the City of Stillwater. And I stand before you to acknowledge the agencies who assisted us during the 2019 OSU Homecoming activities. Each year, public safety and its core partners begin the planning process for two of the largest events our community hosts, with one of those events being recognized as one of the nation's largest of its kind. If you haven't guessed, I'm talking about the very own Oklahoma State University Homecoming. The week of homecoming is packed with events throughout the week that allow our community, students, and alumni to be a part of the week-long celebration that is our homecoming. These events lead to the big finale of walk-around, parade, and of course the homecoming football game. These events are estimated to draw in over 100,000 people for this week-long celebration. Since 2015, when our community was rocked to its core and we were brought to our knees with a devastating vehicle attack at the parade, the public safety community had to answer a call, and that was to improve the safety and security for the participants, the attendees, and our guests in our community. I would like to read to you a list of partners that it takes to make this week happen, but not only at homecoming. Please be reminded that these are our partners for every special event that we have in this community. As I call your name, if you would, just stand where you're at, or don't try to move and come forward. Yes, please. But I would like to recognize these agencies: Oklahoma State University Police Department, Oklahoma State University Emergency Management, the City of Stillwater Police Department, the Payne County Sheriff's Office, our local FBI agents, the Stillwater Fire Department, the Perkins Fire Department, LifeNet Ambulance Service, the REMS team, or Regional Emergency Medical Service System, the Oklahoma Highway Patrol Bomb Squad, the 63rd Civil Support Team. They focus on our chemical, our biological, radiological, nuclear, and explosive air sourcing and source recognition, the City of Stillwater Public Works Department, the District 3 Payne County Commissioners, and of course Stillwater Emergency Management itself. These people standing behind me are the people behind the scenes, those that have dedicated their lives to protecting our community and serving our community.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I had the opportunity to attend the briefing before walk-around this year and to see the hundreds of folks who were gathered at the fire department station beforehand to talk about the sort of plan for the evening. And it was, I was frankly surprised by the number of different agencies that were involved. I know it's a community effort. I know there's a lot of different folks who get involved there, but I think it's great that we have this opportunity tonight to sort of list those agencies and to tell them formally thank you from the City of Stillwater for their help and for everyone's assistance in a wonderful 2019 homecoming and all the other special events we hold during the year.
Absolutely. We had no events this year. We were glad to say we were bored.
Yep.
And we've already begun the planning process for next year, which is a centennial year for homecoming. And we have lots of challenges before us, but we're ready to answer that task.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you all. Uh-oh. You good?
If that's the worst that happened this year, Rob.
Only you, Rob.
It all seems to be working.
Speaker bar.
All right, next up, we have a proclamation in recognition of National Runaway Prevention Month. I think we have some representatives from Payne County Youth Services. Dana Hatter. Hi. How are you, Dana? I'm going to go ahead and read this proclamation for you, and then if you'd like to say a few words or want to let us know anything else, we can do that. Okay. Whereas National Runaway Prevention Month began in 2002 and is spearheaded each year by the National Runaway Safe Line and locally in the communities of Payne County through Payne County Youth Services, Inc. and partners. Whereas the prevalence of runaway and homelessness among youth is staggering, with studies suggesting every year 4.2 million people ages 13 to 25 endure some form of homelessness. And whereas runaway youth are often expelled from their home, have experienced abuse and trauma, are involved in the foster care system, are too poor to secure their own basic needs, and may be ineligible or unable to access adequate medical or mental health resources, and are at increased danger for falling into high-risk situations, including human trafficking. And whereas effective programs supporting runaway youth and assisting youth and their families in providing safe and stable homes succeed because of partnerships created among families, youth-based advocacy organizations, community-based human service agencies, law enforcement, schools, faith-based organizations, and businesses. And whereas the National Runaway Safe Line is honoring November as National Runaway Prevention Month to raise awareness of the issues facing runaway and homeless youth and educate the public about solutions and the role they can play in ending youth homelessness. Now, therefore, I, William Joyce, Mayor of the City of Stillwater, by the authority vested in me by the laws of the City of Stillwater, do hereby proclaim the month of November National Runaway Prevention Month across the City of Stillwater, and urge all citizens to support the efforts to increase public awareness about, advocate on behalf of, and provide positive and safe alternatives to runaway and homeless youth and their families. Thank you for everything you all do at Payne County Youth Services. I think, is there an event coming up tomorrow night? Tomorrow evening? Please, yeah.
Yes, tomorrow we have one at Boomer, and this is the first year that we've done this event, and we're hoping to have it grow every year.
It's like a candlelight vigil?
Candlelight vigil.
Yeah.
And for the month of November, we're asking if you guys can to light a green light or change your light bulbs over to green. It's called the Shine the Light campaign, and we'd be happy to help you guys do that if possible.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
I'm going
you.
to bring this down to you. All right, now we have a presentation from State Farm on the Neighborhood Assist Grant Program, and I think Councilor Jaloski has been intimately involved in this program, so I'm going to hand it over to her for this one.
I'm going to take off my counselor hat and go put my Maya's promise hat on, if that's okay. I've never done a check presentation or what's the best way, do we think?
Well, it depends on where people want to take pictures from.
Well, really quick, I just want to say State Farm is here and our Maya's Promise board is here, and we're here to celebrate the fact that our community was awarded through Maya's Promise from State Farm a $25,000 neighborhood assist grant. And it's because of our community. It's because of everyone out there that voted for 10 days online. We competed across the country against 200 communities, and we were in the top 5 at the end of it. So kudos to everyone out there that came out to support and supported us every day on their computers and iPads. Really quickly, Maya's Promise is an organization here in Stillwater that supports children and their families that live with special needs. And we've recently been partnering with the city on a very special park at Strickland Park, a playground that's going to happen partly with CDBG funds from the city and partly with funding from Maya's Promise and other partners like SMAC. So we're really excited to see this all come together. The specific grant that we applied for with State Farm was to make sure that the restroom facilities and the pavilion facilities at the playground were accessible to everyone that's coming to play. So really important that we're making this beautifully accessible park, that we have facilities that are also beautiful and accessible for them. So with that, I know we've got some Maya's Promise people here, and I know we've got some State Farm people. The more the merrier. So I don't know, Lucas, would you like to say just a few things from State Farm?
Yes.
You guys brought the big check.
Good evening. I'm Lucas Grounds, State Farm agent here in Stillwater, Oklahoma. I also have Jeff Millard with me and Jackie Weinog that are State Farm agents here in Stillwater. The State Farm Neighborhood Assist is a program created to support communities as they work together to improve their neighborhoods. The program helps identify and address key issues faced on an everyday basis by organizations such as Maya's Promise. Today we are here for a brief presentation with Maya's Promise to support the amazing work going on at Strickland Park. An accessible restroom and shelter at the playground will allow our families and children to stay longer, play longer, and connect. I'm proud to present Maya's Promise with a State Farm Neighborhood Assist grant for $25,000. Congratulations.
Somebody take a picture. Can you give us? Hold. Oh.
Thank you so much to State Farm for the grant and to the Stillwater community for voting to get us the grant, and to Maya's Promise for all the work that they've been doing on the playability project at Strickland Park. Okay, that takes us down to item 4 on the agenda, the consent docket. On consent tonight, we have some minutes from meetings. We have a couple of an easement acceptance and some property acquisitions for our Perkins Road transportation project that's coming up, and then a library trust report and a listing of city projects currently under construction. Councilors, any questions, comments, or items you'd like to have removed from the consent docket?
Mayor, I would like to remove item D and item F, please. D as in
D
dog.
as in dog, and F will be removed from the consent docket. Vice Mayor, I don't know if that your mic is on.
Green light?
Yeah, is it on?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. It was. Never mind. All right. Any further comments, or is there a motion on the remaining consent docket items?
Motion to approve consent docket minus items D and item F.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the remaining consent docket items. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, those consent docket items are approved. Item 5 is public comment on items not scheduled for public hearing. I don't have anyone signed up to speak on any of those matters, so we'll drop down to item 6, which is items removed from the consent docket. Vice Mayor, on item D, the annual, or the Library Trust Annual Report.
Right. It's not a very long report, but I do think that there are many people who volunteer their time for the city, and it's way, way under the radar. So I would just like to thank the Library Trust Board. They hold bi-monthly meetings throughout the year, and they manage the donations that come into the library and manage them very well. And of course, we have a fabulous library because of volunteers and good staff and administration and generous donors.
Absolutely. Would you like to make a motion on that item?
Motion to approve item D, the Library Trust Annual Report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the Library Trust Annual Report. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is approved. On item F, Vice Mayor.
Item F is a list of, it's an update on the projects that we are currently working on. And I think that it's part of the reason we have this is because we want everyone to know what's going on and where we are. It's quite a long list. Street projects and transportation projects, airport projects, wastewater treatment, hospital water lines, Strickland Park playground, numerous.
Mm-hmm.
Vice Mayor. No, I'm not on. There is a companion piece to this later in the agenda where they'll give us a
a little tutoring on how to go to the website and look at the status of all
Okay.
those reports.
Because that is a question of, I mean, just, anticipated dates are,
They're there.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I just would point out to folks who, if you're here in the audience, really all we print out is the agenda. We don't have all the reports. That we all have a binder that's full of paper that includes a listing of these projects. You can actually access all this stuff on the website, the stillwater.org, where the agendas are. You can pull up any of these reports that we have so that you can also see all the detail that we're looking at. We don't print 50 of these things for everybody at the meetings. But I would encourage you, if you're interested in the status of different transportation reports, we do have a specific section on our website, but you can also go and pull these agenda reports directly from the website so that you can see kind of where we are with things like, the preventative maintenance on Washington Street project. So thank you for highlighting that,
It's
Vice Mayor.
important information.
Do you have a motion on this item?
Yes, motion to approve item F.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item F from the consent docket. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is approved. Okay, that takes us to item 7 on the agenda, which is public hearings. Under item A, receive public comment regarding a request from Sacred Buds LLC for a specific use permit to operate a medical marijuana dispensary at 721 South Main Street. This is CC-19-179. Mr. Dorman, did we have good notice on this item?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Gross, how are you tonight?
My name is Lance Gross. I'm with the Community Development Department. And we just have one case before you tonight, and it's for a specific use permit for a medical marijuana dispensary on South Main. The photo is a bird's eye view looking to the northeast. The highlighted area indicates the actual building, the location. And you can see it's on the northeast corner of West 8th Avenue and Main Street. Just to kind of give you a little orientation, the top hand right portion of the photo is where we're located. That's City Hall, basically. This is a street view looking to the northeast, looking at the front facade of the proposal. So I'd like now to call up Tiffany Reyes so she can go through her application. Yes.
Hi, how are you? I'm Tiffany Reyes with Sacred Buds. So I don't, let's see, my mom passed away from prescription medication, so I feel I have a lot of knowledge I could offer the community and help them use their medicine in a safer way other than smoking. And I think that there's a lot more knowledge that we're learning to the cannabis industry, so I feel like I have a lot of, let's see, I don't know, a lot of reason to help people because I feel like there's a lot of people in my shoes. So at that point, I'm ready to help the community, and that's what I'm here for. So,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate you being here. Councilors, any questions at this point? I will open the public hearing. We don't have anyone signed up to speak at this public hearing, so I'll close the public hearing and ask Lance to give us Planning Commission's recommendation on this item.
Yes, the Planning Commission made a recommendation of a vote of 4-0 to approve the application.
Thank you, Lance.
Yes.
Councilors, questions, comments, or motions?
I do have a question. I've meant to ask this almost on every one of these applications. In the background of the report for the Planning Commission, it says a proposal for signage has not been submitted.
That is correct.
And then the notes in the Planning Commission noted, and as we saw in the photo, the sign is already there.
That is correct.
So,
Yes. Basically, we have notified them or let them know, and we've made them sign an affidavit stating that they cannot operate or have anybody come into the structure. So until
even-
this is approved.
okay.
Yeah.
Are there any requirements or restrictions on sign?
They would have to come in and submit a sign application. Yes.
For any type of sign or for something special?
For any type of sign.
Okay.
Standard procedure.
So I guess the question is, why is there a sign up there already if there's no sign permit? That's just
Good question.
a matter of
Yeah.
process.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, they have been notified.
But not really related to this issue before us tonight.
That is correct.
Thank you, Lance.
Yes.
I would like to thank you for the map that came in our packet.
Yes.
It actually has street names
Yes.
that I can read.
Easier to read, yes.
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Counselors,
Motion to accept the Planning Commission recommendation to approve the specific use permit for a medical marijuana dispensary at 721 South Main Street.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to approve this specific use permit. Please vote. With a vote of 3-2, with Councilors Wedlake and Vice Mayor Darlington voting against, that item is approved. All right, that takes us down to item 8, General Orders. 8A, update on dilapidated property at 716 West 9th Avenue. Mr. Dorman.
This is the item that lagged from the other dilapidated structures that you were working. We're happy to report that the building at 716 West 9th has been taken down. You have photographs of it in the packet that we provided for you. I'd also note that the building at 711 West 9th has also been taken down. So both of those items that were in compliance with the order from back in August to take the structures down have been completed. And I would also advise you that we have published the bid solicitation on the remaining buildings, and we have also sent out bid solicitations to 7 different wrecking companies within the Oklahoma City and Tulsa metropolitan areas, and we should have that back for you soon.
Thank you, sir.
So just to clarify, this was done by the owner,
Yes, ma'am. This and the one on 711. So the owners took care of both of those.
We certainly appreciate their assistance in getting those done. All right, item 8B, request for approval of the policy guidelines for the Homebuyer Assistance Program as presented, and authorize staff to administer the program beginning January 1, 2020 for fiscal year 20. This is CC-19-181. Hello, Paula.
Good evening, Paula Dennison, Assistant City Manager. As y'all will recall, back in March, we had brought a proposal to the council about reestablishing our very successful Homebuyers Assistance Program that we had discontinued a few years ago. Working with the lenders and some realtors throughout the community, we have taken their ideas and input and customized this program to fit what the staff, working with them, and some of the service industry for affordable housing, what they have indicated is needed throughout this community. You have in your packet the proposed Homebuyer Assistance Program policy guidelines. I won't go through all of this. I'll just hit a couple of the high points. Our previous program only provided assistance for first-time home buyers, low to moderate income qualifying first-time home buyers inside the city limits. We're expanding this program to continue that, the low to moderate income first-time home buyers, the first-time home buyer within the city limits of Stillwater. We do not have an income qualifier. We did set a cap on the house price, the property price, but there's not an income qualifier for that. And then another new, and this came at the request of the lenders and the realtors, is assistance once low to moderate income purchases a home on certain repairs. And those have been listed in the policy guidelines. The previous program was operated for a period of affordability of 5 years. This has been extended to a period of affordability of 7 years. Oklahoma Housing Finance Agency, the state agency that does provide grant assistance for communities who are seeking homebuyer assistance through them, they have extended theirs from 5 to 7 years, their period of affordability. So we're keeping in line with what the state is doing.
Paul, could you clarify what
Yes.
you mean by period of affordability?
Yes, thank you for that. So when the city provides assistance in any one of these three categories, there is a requirement that the property be the primary residence of the individual or the family that assistance is provided to for that period of 7 years. If during that period of time, that 7 years, there's any violation of the policy guidelines, and we have those explicitly listed out, renting it, using it for commercial purposes. We've just had the short-term rental conversation here recently, selling it, or not living there as your primary residence. Those are typically what we see. Then that negates the contract that you have with the city, and repayment is required at that time. We do an annual certification to make sure that the assistance provided is still being utilized in the manner under which it was provided. So staff will be doing that annually. So that is the period of affordability, is that 7 years. One other major change from our previous program: everything prior was solidified by a second mortgage on the property which the city was providing assistance. In speaking with the realtors and the lenders, that had been creating a problem that we were unaware of, because that assistance was actually being calculated on the front side when they were even applying for a loan. They would have to count that as the income that they had. So it was detrimental to their ability to afford an even greater home, even just the small amount of assistance that the city was providing. So we discussed with the city attorney's office, at the recommendation of the lenders and realtors, that instead of a second mortgage on the home buyer piece, that it be secured by a deed restriction. What that does is it still allows the city to enforce the period of affordability, but we would, if there was a violation, we would do something differently. We would not end up taking the home, because we would not have a second mortgage on it. We would actually go through different legal pathways to ensure that, that our money was returned to us that we had assisted with. We're keeping the second mortgage component on the repair piece of this program, because the property owners, they already own the home. So the second mortgage will not impact at all their ability to purchase a home. It will not have a detrimental effect on them.
It's sort of like getting a home equity line.
Yes, just about. And that's very high level, general overview of the policy guidelines. If you need a recommendation, staff fully supports this. We are developing a homebuyer education criteria. I've got a draft outline here, and just right quickly, the topics: preparing for home ownership, financing your home, purchasing process, and the closing. And other things, of course, will be discussed. What can you expect? What all do you have to prepare for when you own your home? Lawnmower, hot water heater breaks, insurance, any of that type stuff will be discussed at these education classes. They are required that every individual or family that we provide assistance to does take this homebuyer education class. Happy to answer any questions that I can.
Counselors?
I have one curiosity question, Paula.
Yes,
in the example, in the requirements, the criteria, assistance is available to only those holding primary residence at the subject property. And the example is grandparents could not buy a home for a grandchild. Can parents buy a home for a child? I mean, it just seemed like it skipped a generation.
Well, that was just an example.
Okay.
So no, the person living there would only be the one to qualify for any assistance. So a parent, a grandparent, aunt, uncle, any member of the family or relation that is not going to be using it as their principal residence, they would not be able to qualify for that assistance.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Paula, there are three, what is termed paths in here
Yes.
to get this assistance. The first being the low to moderate income, the second being the repairs, specific repairs, and then the third, the purchase of first home inside Stillwater city limits. Can you explain to me the difference between the first path and the third path? Why those are separate paths?
Certainly. The first path, the low to moderate income home buyer inside city limits. Of course, all of this is only done within the corporate limits of Stillwater. This is where individuals or families have to meet certain income qualifications, and that counts everybody of working age within the household. And that counts any income that they have coming in. So that's the more of the affordable housing component of this, to where this is assistance giving to them. Primarily it's used for down payment and closing cost is what the city's assistance is used for in this regard. In path 3, where it's the just somebody first time ever buying a home within the corporate limits of Stillwater, they do not have to meet any income qualifications. The only dollar figure we have associated with that is the cap on the housing price. So one is for low to moderate income, and the other is for anybody purchasing a home in Stillwater.
Their first home in Stillwater.
Their first home in Stillwater,
Like
yes.
the first home they've ever owned, or the first home they've ever owned in Stillwater?
First home they have ever owned inside the corporate limits of Stillwater.
But path 1 doesn't have to be your first home.
Path 1 is any low to moderate income home buyer. That is correct.
Why? Why is there no income restriction on the third path? I mean, is our concern even people who don't have an income problem should be able to get some assistance? I'm not sure why we were offering financial assistance to people who don't meet don't have an income problem.
Sure. Thank you for asking that question too, and I'll try to answer as best I can. It's more of component to economic development. In speaking with the Chamber of Commerce in their industrial and business recruitment, the ability of folks to come to Stillwater for a new job, they are making above the low to moderate income cap, the ceilings, but they still may need some assistance in purchasing that first home inside Stillwater.
Or we just want to encourage them to buy a house in Stillwater rather
Yes.
than buying it somewhere else.
Yes.
Okay. And I note that there are percentages of the actual funding that are available for each one of these paths. So the low income path has 50% of the total funding will be spent that way.
Yes,
And
sir.
only 25% of it would go to each of the other two.
The low to moderate home buyer is the 50%. The low to moderate repair, and then the first time home buyer in Stillwater each have 25%. That's correct. And again, we're using the funds from the previous program where payoffs had been made for the violations of the program, and it's barely over $37,000. We would like to start this with your approval January 1st. That would give us a good 6 months to get a really good feel about how much is out there, how much need and demand. We have already heard from a number of agencies and lenders that they're just hanging back, waiting on this to be approved, and they're going to start sending some individuals and families to us for assistance. And we will be asking in the next budget cycle for additional funds. So
probably in June, 6 months from the beginning of the program, we would have a report on its success or progress.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Mm-hmm. And I hope we don't have to wait that long to tell you we're out of money.
Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah.
Well, I think just overall, I mean, I think this is a long time coming, something we need to be doing as a city to, again, both encourage lower income folks to be able to afford homes in the city, and also to encourage people to buy houses in Stillwater overall. I love that we've added the repair.
Me too.
You know, this is one of the things we've actually been pushing on a lot is upkeep, and you know, so we want to make sure that in conjunction with doing that, we're also making, you know, at least some availability for people to help, you know, for help for people to be able to keep those homes well maintained. So this is exciting.
And if I
That's
may,
it.
I'll just interject right quickly what the city manager usually says. Our extremely high rental occupancy rate that we have here in Stillwater, around 67%, extremely high for any city in Oklahoma. This also will go towards hoping to reduce that high percentage.
Housing is a huge topic, and this is not all of housing solution. So we'll continue to work on other ways to increase our good ownership and upkeep of homes.
Absolutely. Councilors, anything further on this item? Paula, do you have a recommendation for us?
Please approve.
I do think it worth noting, going back to Mayor Joyce's comments earlier, that Path 3, while it does not have an income, low to middle income limit, Section E, for those that don't have reports out there, states that assistance will not be provided for the purchase of any property valued over $250,000. So I think that's an important, take-home point here. We're not helping people buy $5 million homes here. So.
Correct.
And that the residency requirements still apply in that section, correct?
Absolutely.
It has to be your primary residence. We're not going to help somebody buy a rental house.
That is correct.
That they're going to just rent out, right? So this is, the idea here is that we're helping people buy their home to live in.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay. What else?
Motion to approve the staff recommendation to please approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the policy guidelines for the Homebuyer Assistance Program. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is approved.
Thank you all very much, and I know the folks who are going to be using this program appreciate it also.
Thank you to you and your staff, and also to the lenders and the bankers and folks in town who have taken a part in making sure this is an effective program for the purpose we're trying to get done.
Yes, we'll pass that along to them as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, item 8C, presentation of key performance indicators developed by Citizens Task Force, CC-19-185. We have David Barth and Leah Womack.
Good evening, councilors. I'm David Barth. I'm with Water Utilities Engineering, and this is Leah Womack. She's with Human Resources. Tonight, we're excited to come to give an update on the Key Performance Indicator Task Force, or KPI. We'll probably use KPI because it's hard to say Key Performance Indicator all of the time. And before we do give that update, I just wanted to share with you the names of the folks that are on that task force. A few of those people are here tonight, and they may actually get up and want to speak after we get done with our report. From the citizens, we had Alicia Johnson, Allie Murray, Alan Young, Dora Bush, Joy Kaywood, Jeff Dillon, Mary McGowan, Stephanie Jones, Shirley Weeks. And then from city staff, we had Christy Cluck, Leah Womack, Cindy Gibson, Megan Pardue, Tom Bradley, Melissa Reams, Sherry Fletcher, and myself.
It's a big group.
Yeah, it's not as big as the recycling one though, right? So
we're setting records.
We'll start recruiting more. So anyway, so we began at the end of August, and we have met, we were dedicated, and we met for 9 weeks. We usually met from 5:30 to 7, sometimes 8 o'clock on Tuesday nights, and we put in a lot of hours. In the beginning, we talked to our task force about two purposes that we wanted to have these KPIs for. One was to show that that the resources of the city are being allocated appropriately, and the second one is that we really wanted to inspire a culture of continuous improvement within city staff. So we jumped right in. During the first 3 weeks, we had department heads that came and presented what each of their departments do and the services that they provide to the citizens. After that, we broke up into small groups. We had tables of 4, I think, and we spent the next few weeks developing, just brainstorming KPIs for each department. And we had, this is an example of this, but this spreadsheet We had, I don't know, maybe 200 KPIs that we developed for the 20 departments that we heard from. After the brainstorming was complete, we asked the task force, we told them we need to refine this somehow, and so we asked them to develop some criteria. And we developed 4 criteria to refine our KPIs with. We said that the key performance indicators had to be measurable, they had to be relevant to the community, relevant to the strategic plan, and then they had to be timely. We also talked about that the KPIs, we needed both leading and lagging indicators. And so we talked about what those are. And actually, I was sharing this idea with our team in Water Utilities Engineering, and one of my team members said, well, you really can't see where you're going if you're always looking in the rearview mirror. And so that's exactly what lagging indicators are if you just focus on those. For example, for the city, a lagging indicator would be revenue or water quality. Those are just purely outcomes. We wanted to also have a combination of leading indicators or outputs. For example, removing dead-end water lines from our distribution system, or replacing lane miles of city streets, or replacing a certain footage of city sidewalk. So then we spent the last few weeks together just looking at the criteria, refining our list of KPIs, and then also we had asked each of the department heads to provide their own KPIs. And we hadn't shared those with the task force yet. And so during those last few meetings, we asked them to align our task force KPIs with the department head KPIs. And surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, there were a lot of similar KPIs, so that was a good thing. At this time, I'm going to ask Leah to talk about where we're going from here, because we're certainly not done.
In looking at what we're going to do moving forward, we're currently taking a break from meeting as a whole task force. We've got the staff on the task force together, and we are refining those KPIs, putting them into plain language, and we are also aligning them with the objectives under the strategic plan. Once that has been done, we will get back together with the remainder of our task force and refine and make edits for inclusion into the strategic plan. And we've got 2 members, I believe, of our task force from the citizen side that want to speak.
Good evening, counselors. First of all, I would like to say thank you for allowing us this opportunity that citizens get to participate in city government, get to have such a wonderful view of what the city does for us. I was certainly very surprised and enthralled to find out how wonderful our standards are, and we have a lot to brag about, especially comparative to other cities our size. Another thing that I learned through my experience was that I got to see other citizens from all facets of Stillwater, and to meet with them and to learn from them and to see just how proud our citizens are of our city. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
And you are? Mary McGowan.
Thank you.
Do I need to say my name and street?
Some people here might not recognize you, Shirley.
I'm Shirley Weeks. I live at 71 University Circle. Good evening, counselors, staff, and the good people that are here with us this evening. I wanted to share with you some comments that I made at our last task force meeting. I want to thank each of you for this experience. I hesitated about being a member of the KPI task force. Time and technology seemed to separate me from full participation. The knowledgeable, well-organized staff and the diverse backgrounds of the task force came together to produce a quality process and product. Thank you for a positive, productive learning experience. It was truly, you could see as we went on, a sense of community that came within this task force. It was just as I said, a learning experience. I also, the task force didn't say this, but I think the city should consider having a speaker bureau. The heads of the departments that came to speak were only allowed 10 minutes. Now, I'll have to admit, a few of them went over a little bit. And then they allowed us to ask questions. But you can't, I don't know if you got a copy of what they said, but you couldn't believe the amount of information that they gave in that 10 minutes and the pride that they showed in their departments and the commitment to service in this community. So I think you should think about a speakers bureau. And once again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to work with this group and see how committees can move forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shirley.
I would just like to say thank you too for the opportunity to have this task force. I've really enjoyed so far serving in this capacity. I'm really passionate about continuous improvement, and I would like to thank the citizens that volunteered, because they did put in a lot of time out of their busy schedules, and of course the city staff did as well. And we're not done yet. I did want to ask if you think we're heading in the right direction with what we've done so far, or if you need us to restart or something like that. And then also just if you had any questions for any of us.
I think I just want to say thank you to each of you for the time and the effort put into learning. It is fascinating when you actually have time and have people talk about what it is that makes the city run. And continuous improvement is something we all need to do no matter what area we're in, but especially it's important to think about with the city of Stillwater. I just have one question. Was there one thing that surprised this committee? Was there one main thing that was surprising as far as...
Was there like a key performance indicator that was a surprise?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, obviously we had, like I said, a couple hundred, and so there were a lot. I learned a lot. I'm very narrow, I think, in my focus of being in water utilities engineering, just being involved with my projects. And so I learned what was great about this experience was I got to work with city staff that I don't normally work with. I had not ever worked with Leah. I got to know Melissa Reams really well, which has been a great surprise. And then also just getting to know some of our community. There wasn't a single person on our community side of the task force that I knew going into this. And so I encourage folks to serve. It's part of your civic duty, I think, to help out with the community that you live in. And this is a great way to do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm always kind of humbled when people who have dedicated their time and as much effort as you all have get up to the microphone and say thank you to us. I mean, that needs to be coming from this horseshoe out. So, we greatly appreciate what you guys have put in. I think I can speak for the entire council when I say we're very excited to see what the final KPIs end up being, because that's kind of the name of the game here is a citizenry that is active, that is involved, because ultimately this affects all of us, and so to see you guys as involved as you are is not only exciting but inspiring. So we certainly appreciate all the time you have put in, and I think we all look forward to see what the final product is. So thank you.
I was really glad to hear the sort of process that you guys have gone through, right? I mean, just the sort of step-by-step nature of it, and starting with sort of broad and narrowing it down and hearing from all the department heads. Certainly the discussion of trailing and leading indicators, like, trying to not just report on how we did this last year, but to actually get us data that's going to help us make better decisions moving forward is huge. So certainly sounds like the process has been a good one to this point, and I would expect it to produce great results when we get to see those KPIs. It's always great to hear that citizens had a good experience on a committee like this. It's our, I think, duty to make sure that's possible. We don't always do well at making these sorts of committees fruitful. But I'm very appreciative to you all and to the staff and to the citizens who have served here for making it a fruitful experience for all of us in Stillwater.
It seems like you've really honed. I also really appreciate the process that you've put to it. It seems like it's maybe something that you'll be able to come back to each year or however often we need to come back to these indicators. It seems like you guys have done the hard work and put in the long hours to develop a process that will serve us in our community moving forward as we look at our strategic plan. And I think that's really awesome. And I really appreciate that contribution and the time and intention that you've put to that. I love it. Just kind of a warm, fuzzy feeling, you guys, that you felt so good about it. It really is. That's awesome. It just kind of gives me goosebumps. Good job.
I think it's very easy as probably staff of the city, and I think definitely even as city councilors, we kind of just get, it's like, the fish ask the fish, what's water? We're just surrounded by this. So to have fresh eyes on the operations and then is so valuable, and especially knowing what citizens want to have measured and where they want to move in their leading indicators. It's very, very helpful to know what is important to the people who are the city. And thank you.
Right. Thank you all very much. We appreciate the report. Looking forward to hearing more. Thank you to all who have served on the committee as well.
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
May I?
Yes.
I consider Shirley Weeks to be one of our best informed citizens, and she makes great suggestions from time to time. And I want you to know. Well, I didn't mean that way. But I want you to know how agile we are. We have a speakers bureau. We've already got it in place, and you can call and get people to talk about just about anything connected to the city that you would like to have.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, we're at item 8D, authorize an application by the Stillwater Public Library for an Oklahoma Historical Society grant to provide a consultant for aid in developing a 5-year strategic plan, CC-19-184. Hello, Stacy. How are you?
I'm great. Good evening. I'm Stacy Delano, Director of the Stillwater Public Library, and I wanted to let you all know that one of the best kept secrets regarding Stillwater history are the archives at the Stillwater Public Library. And we sometimes hear about the OSU archives or SHRAR, but you may not know that we have close to 5,000 items in our own special collections. We've taken thousands of moldering, deteriorating pages, placed all throughout the library, and pulled them into a special collections room. And at this point, we want to take the next step, and that will require us applying for an Oklahoma Historical Society grant. As background, the library seeks approval from the library board for every grant for which we apply. After working with the city manager's office, we've determined that we will also seek approval from the city council whenever a grant is over $10,000 or whenever it requires a cash match grant. The OHS grant in this case requires a 10% match, which has already been pledged by the Friends of the Library, so that component has been covered. Also, application for any future Oklahoma Historical Society grants requires that we have a strategic plan, and that is what this grant is going to do. In this grant, we'll be hiring a professional strategist to help our library create a 3 to 5 year plan that solidifies our values, our vision, our goals, and also provides a very detailed action plan for what we're going to do to take this basically secret collection and bring it to the eyes of everyone, especially online. The process will take 3 to 4 months to complete, and we've selected Nancy Lowe Clark, who's well respected in both the museum and library worlds. We're asking OHS to provide $8,460, which will be matched with the Friends $940. And to be transparent, because of the timeline and the need to seek library board approval, we have already submitted the application, but if you should choose not to approve our request, we'll certainly ask for our application to be pulled from consideration. So we are asking that you all approve our request to apply.
Thank you very much. That was a very helpful summary.
It was.
And it's great to see the library working towards, I'd love to see that collection. It sounds like there's some great stuff there.
I would love to invite all of you over sometime so that we can show you the treasures we have. The most recent one was we got our hands back on the Stillwater Fire Department historic records. So hopefully we'll be getting those digitized and made available to our citizens that actually reach out we get requests across the country because of so many people graduating or being here in Stillwater at OSU.
Excellent. Councilors, questions, or is there a motion on this item?
Motion to authorize application by Stillwater Public Library for Oklahoma Historical Society grant to provide a consultant for aid in developing a 5-year strategic plan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this grant application. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is approved.
Thank you.
And I think you're up here for the next item too, right? 8E, authorize an application by the Stillwater Public Library for a National Endowment for the Arts, Big Read Grant, to fund a community reading event.
The Stillwater Public Library has been holding community-wide reading series since 2007. It is probably our biggest series, although Lexicon has now become our single biggest event. The intent of these community-wide reading series is for an entire community all at once to discuss and read the same words, ideas, discuss the same thoughts, share their opinions together all at one time, and they've proven to be enormously successful. Our next reading series will be in October and November of 2020 on the book Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, and that tells the story of a post-flu pandemic America where a troupe of Shakespearean actors and musicians travel around helping the people who remain understand that simply surviving isn't enough. To execute this series, we are going to need to apply for a grant, and the one we've chosen is the Big Read Grant from the National Endowment of the Humanities. This grant is in the amount of $15,000, which is why we're seeking your approval, and it does not require a cash match. It requires in-kind matches. So, for example, we almost always meet those matches through the accumulation of staff time, partnership time, and volunteer time, as well as the use of our facilities, as well as monies that we may get from the Stillwater Public Trust or the Friends of the Library. We'll also be soliciting other organizations, donations, and corporate sponsorship. And we just ask for your approval to proceed with that.
Stacy, if somebody did want to donate this to this directly, how would they do that?
I would love for them to contact me at stacy.delano@stillwater.org, or you can call the library and they will put you our way. We would love to have more partners.
Perfect. Thank you.
I love the community reading events. The Killers of the Flower Moon event last time was fantastic.
Well, we never realized that. We never anticipated how big it would actually get, and to the extent that we saw the public wanting to see and meet and hear face to face the actual author, we realized there's no way we can go back at this point.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I was also excited to read that you will have a little read.
This will be the first year that we do a little read, and that is when we choose an additional book to go along with the big book, and children will be reading the book Blackout, and our children's librarian, our magnificent Elizabeth Murray, is working with organizations at OSU who I believe are going to be able to bring the author to town as well.
Excellent.
That's great.
Councilors, further questions, or is there a motion on this item?
Before I make the motion, I would just say this little caveat. I guess I love reading. I don't know what I would do without reading. But our Stillwater Library is fabulous, And community library is a resource that is so understood. It is not just about books. It's so many other things. And I happily make the motion to authorize the Stillwater Public Library to apply for the National Endowment for the Humanities Big Read Grant for up to $15,000 for community-wide reading series.
And I will happily second it.
We have a motion and a second happily to approve this item. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the item's approved. Item F is approved budget amendments reflecting donations to the Stillwater Public Library.
All right, and this is the last item from the library on the agenda, and it is a request to approve the budget amendment adding a total of $896 in donations to various projects. We've been working with finance quite a bit, and I have to tell everyone that is the best kept secret, is what an amazing asset to the city of Stillwater Christy Cluck is. Your money is in great hands, and I have been the beneficiary of some great advice. We've been working with her so that we can accurately reflect what we take in as donations. Formerly, we used to make an estimate of how much in donations we would get per year, put that on the budget that then was submitted to you all for approval. Now, Christy has suggested that we do something much more accurate, which is to bring in each month a budget amendment reflecting what those donations are, so we have a real-time budget. One thing that will not be on here will be, for example, donations that go to the Stillwater Public Library Trust. So, for example, we recently just accepted an $86,000 donation from the List estate that has gone into the trust. Those will go through the trust rather than City Council, but you'll be seeing me every month with the donations outside of the trust that are raised. So we're just asking for your approval for the budget amendment.
Stacey, I hope we see you every month.
I do
Good.
too.
And I don't know if Christy or Stacey, if you can clarify. I know I had gotten some written communication. I'm just asking why you guys had to come up and clarify budget amendments, and kind of it's not a checks and balance or that we don't trust that you're handling the money in the right way, but just a way to be a little bit more clear on what money is coming in. And I don't know if there's anything else you need to add, but some clarification for the public to understand why this needs to be done monthly.
And I think the staff members would say we appreciate the opportunity. Usually I won't have other grants to bring up, so it's my chance to tell you all more about the library and to the public, so we appreciate that opportunity.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Thank you.
Councilors, is there a motion?
Motion to accept donations and approve budget amendments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item F. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is approved. Thank you so much, Stacey. It's great to see you. Item G, approve budget amendment transferring reimbursement funds from the federal grant revenue account to SPD training, travel, lodging, and software upgrades accounts.
Jeff Watts, Chief of Police for the City of Stillwater. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilors. Stillwater Police Department is a member of the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. We have 3 detectives that are currently on that task force. OSBI is the overseer of that task force. And every year, those members go to training outside of Stillwater, upgrade their equipment, their electronics for conducting these investigations. And OSBI reimburses us for a lot of those costs. And this year, we had 2 officers went to the Crimes Against Children training in Dallas for a total of $2,972.24. And then we also had a computer software upgrade of $1,599. And OSBI agreed to reimburse us for those amounts that we spent for the training and for the software upgrades to do ICAC investigations. And when that reimbursement money came back in, it was deposited into the city's general revenue account. And we're just asking for that money to be sent back to our training and software account so that we can use it for in-house training and for other software upgrades, because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to send them to this training if it weren't for them agreeing to reimburse ahead of time.
Excellent. That's, again, I'm a fan of the presentations tonight so far.
Very much.
Very helpful.
Yep.
Councilors, any questions, or is there a motion on this item?
Motion to approve the budget amendment as stated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item G. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item's approved. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Item H, approve bid recommendation for replacement of terminal roof at Stillwater Regional Airport, CC-19-189. Mr. Scott.
Good evening. Jim Scott, project manager with the city. In front of you, I have a report for replacement of the Stillwater Regional Airport terminal roof. The roof is in pretty bad shape, pretty old. We hired Studio Architecture out of Oklahoma City to look at it. Their suggestion was to replace it instead of try to patch it again. The roof has numerous leaks all throughout the whole building, so it's quite a mess for Paul and his staff out at the airport. We have this budgeted in this year's budget based on the architecture firm's recommendation. Again, that was to put it out for competitive bid. We had 3 bids submitted, and Capstone Roofing out of Stillwater was the low bid. So I would ask that we award the bid to Capstone Roofing to replace the terminal roof in the amount of $99,110.
Councilors?
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
I love the airport and the terminal, but I do have 2 questions.
Okay.
And I do have 2 questions.
Okay.
No contingency in that 99,000? Typically, we have a contingency.
They were pretty confident in the numbers that they were putting in. They were given test results. There were core samples done, and so they're able to tell what's in the roof, what's been done in years past. It's a metal and a concrete roof. Help me if I stray, Paul. But it's a metal and a concrete roof too. Everything we're seeing from underneath, we're not seeing anything that's raising red flags. Of course, when you do pull a roof, you don't know what you're going to find.
I don't know. Has anyone ever done a construction project that was dollar on?
No surprises.
And this one is going to be a little complicated because we have to pull all the heat and air units off the roof too. So it's going to have some things in it, but the contractor and the architect feel pretty confident with this price and what's there.
My second question is, do you have a timeline for a new terminal?
No, ma'am.
Does the city
That
have a
would be-
timeline for a new terminal?
That would be a Paul Pregel question.
That has a roof, hopefully.
Good evening. We'll need a roof a lot quicker than a new terminal. We have, right now, 2021, we should go into design. The FAA has allocated a grant for that budget year to start a design process. It's about a 14 to 18-month process. Ideally, from there, we would look at a 2024 fiscal year start construction, and the FAA has also allocated a grant for that year to help us with our terminal as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councilors, any further questions? Is there a motion on this item?
Motion to award the bid to Capstone Roofing LLC for replacement of the terminal roof in the amount of $99,110 and authorize the city manager to execute all necessary project documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item H. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that bid recommendation is approved. Item 8I, presentation of web-based tools for status and details on demand of city projects. Megan, how are you?
Good evening. I'm good. How are you all?
Good.
So tonight I'm here to present you guys with some web-based tools that staff has developed in order to make information about the city's current projects more accessible to both council and the public. So I'll start by taking you guys to stillwater.org. And under the government tab, you'll see we have a current projects page. Here, this will kind of serve as the hub as where all of these projects are stored. You can see to the left that they're sorted by either department or by project page. Let's start by looking at Water 2040. Just for an example, I'll go to 32nd Avenue Booster Pump Station. So this is kind of what these project pages will look like. You'll see the title, what we're doing, and general benefits of this project in plain language so that the public can really understand why these projects are important to the city. You'll also see anticipated milestones like dates for completion, construction, as well as budget and funding, so funding sources and expenditures to date. We've also added a visual component to these. There will be a timeline that we will update continually as the project progresses so that people can see where we're at any given time. At the bottom, you'll also see that we've added any images associated with this project. Another useful tool that we've added lies back on the main current projects page. Here you'll see the interactive infrastructure map. This is a GIS map that we've prepared that shows you in real time where these projects are happening and when. So over to the left, I'm going to toggle to zoom in. You'll see that these are color-coded. At the bottom, I'm going to open up the Legends menu. And here we have them color-coded by construction, completion, and all the phases associated with these projects. Another great aspect to this tool is the fact that if you only care about a certain part of town and what's going on in a certain part of town, you can come up here to the search bar and just search an address and it'll take you right to it. Let's say you also only care about pavement management and you don't want to see anything else. So we've provided that option for you as well. You can come over here to the left and uncheck all of these boxes and it will just display the pavement management projects happening around town. Another aspect of this tool is that you can click on any of these colored lines and it will show you exactly what we've just seen back on these project pages, including a contact if you have any questions, as well as funding sources and just additional information about these projects. So with that being said, the development of these tools is definitely still a work in progress and there are still a lot of improvements to be made. Some that we are currently working on include improving the transparency by adding more detail to these pages. We also want to better explain the project phases by, what's happening and when. We also are looking at improving this map tool. This might include using a more publicly familiar platform like Google Maps. Everyone knows how to work that. But this option is still being explored. Lastly, it's important to note the projects shown here are just the ones that we are actually turning dirt on. So we are working to add all of the projects, including the ones that are, still in the design phase and not quite added yet. So we will be taking feedback at speakup.stillwater.org. That page will be up by the end of this week, and we highly encourage the public to utilize this and tell us how they want to see these projects displayed for them. So we will be taking feedback in that way. And lastly, I'd just like to ask council for any feedback on these tools, and any ideas you have for how to share this information would be great.
Thank you, Megan. Appreciate the demonstration. Councilors?
I think I just want to say thank you for taking what was in my head and how to explain to people how to get somewhere and the information and putting it in a format that I think is going to be very easy for the public to use. I think the simpler the better for a lot of things, and that's a lot of information to try and put in a simple format, and I was very impressed with what you have created, and I am always impressed too at technology and how much I don't know that it can be done, and so thank you for doing that. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, it was really beautiful, and it seemed pretty intuitive to me as you explained it, and I probably couldn't sit down and intuit myself, but with your explanation, yes. Thank you.
So we just need you to go around town and sit down with everybody.
Will do. Every coffee shop.
Yes. That's not a bad idea if you want a suggestion for how to get the word out.
Okay.
Take your laptop to every coffee shop.
We should do a little pop-up city halls.
A pop-up city hall with a laptop.
With
That'd be
a
awesome.
demonstration.
Okay.
Of,
Or a little projector or something somewhere. That'd be cool.
A live demonstration.
And have each of us do it so we learn.
Yes. I really like the map. I think that really helps. I do think that often, we're most concerned about the areas that we travel or the areas that we live. So I think having a map and for people to understand, oh, that's the project that's happening there, or that's when this is going to be done. I know that's a question that I get often, like, when is this going to be finished? When can I drive on that road again? I think that map is awesome. I think as prevalent as you can make that, kind of when you go to that current projects page, I think that's really helpful and
Okay.
seems really user-friendly.
All right.
Thank you.
One more thing I forgot to mention, actually, that you just reminded me. If we can get the monitor back showing the desktop again, I'll show you guys. There's another shortcut to the current projects page. Let me pull up stillwater.org again. Down here at the bottom, we have these quick click bubbles that you can cut straight to a project. So these are also there for the public's use as well.
Click on that transportation projects bubble real quick for me.
So that's going into current projects, but it's the transportation projects. Is that those bubbles are?
Yes. So that is what it will show you.
And then where's the map on that page?
It's linked at the top of each of the project pages. So see right here.
Yeah,
But-
something maybe visual there.
I wonder if
More
you can have, like,
prevalent.
a
Of a
clip
map
of
or
the
something,
map
'cause
or
it's-
something that shows it.
Okay. Do you guys agree with the format that we're using now, or would you want to see something more like Google Maps?
It's tough because Google Maps is more user-friendly probably, but you can't get as much information in there necessarily. So, if you can with all, it's a tough one because it might be easier for people to use, but it's also, I don't know that you can filter to the level you've got on this map.
Does this just show, is it just a road map or is there opportunity to put an aerial, right on Google Maps, you can put an aerial background to it?
Mm-hmm. So down at the bottom, you can click on Base Map Gallery, and it will show you all of these options. One that looks more like Google Maps is the streets view. So
I think as long as it's clickable and kind of intuitively clickable, I don't know that the platform really matters so much. I think having the information, I think I agree with Will, having the information is probably more important. And as long as it's just clickable and visual, I think that makes it so much easier and user-friendly for our citizens.
Yeah. I actually kind of appreciate the GIS, format because you can, for the people that know what they're looking for, who want that amount of data, you can put that in there. But I agree. I think an overlay, a clickable overlay like you've got, where you can click on a specific project, that little window pops up and says, this is where the appropriations came from, this is the timeline, this is, that information on the overlay is good for the people that may not want to drill down to all that data. So I think you're actually off to a really, really good start. That is impressive.
great, good to hear.
So I would make just two additional suggestions looking at this. So can you go back to the transportation projects page, just for example? I would love to see a table either here or maybe a link to a table that's just, every current project, planning, that just gives a quick, this is in planning, this is the budget, this is the estimated completion, and this is in construction, and this is the budget, and this is the estimated completion. Just so there's an easy, and I think there is that list somewhere, but sometimes it's tough. Like I would love to be able to just click what's going on with transportation and have a good big table of everything that's happening.
Like a master list.
Yeah. And then I can drill into it with the map if I want to, or I could drill into an individual project and see the individual project page. Because all the information here is great. And I think we just need like 2 or 3 different ways to get to it for everybody, right? Because some people want to see the map, some people want to see a list, some people want to have you explain it to them. It just, there's lots of different options. My second comment or suggestion here is just that sometimes in my use of these pages, whether it's transportation or development projects that are going on or that sort of thing, the update schedule has not always been as frequent as it needs to be. So I know you guys are working on trying to keep it updated. I don't know if there's like someone pinged every month or something so that they get, hey, you need to make sure this project page gets updated. Because there are times sometimes you go in there and you can tell the last update was like March of 2018. And, it's good information, but it's a year and a half old. So I'm sure there is, but something that makes sure every one of these pages is really kept up to date as much as we can would be helpful, so we don't have folks, getting frustrated by seeing old information on the page.
Okay.
I think I really like your suggestion to have the master page, and I think one area that people ask a lot of questions about, well, I've heard you're going to do this, but where is it?
Yeah.
And it's in design or engineering. I don't know all of the correct language, but if we had, I mean, if you knew it was in engineering and that it was being worked on, it would be clearer than, you know, expected completion date is 2024. Well,
Okay.
where are you now?
Did I hear you say that you guys were working towards adding the projects that were in the planning and design phase at some point?
Yes, so all of the projects displayed here are just the ones we are physically turning dirt on.
Right.
In the future, those would be added.
So potentially even on the map layer, would they be added?
Yes.
So that'd be a really cool
You just have a heading
visual
of
to be able to
design
toggle
things.
on, like, these are the things that are coming up.
Yep.
And these are the things that are, I mean, it's a really neat visual to see everything we have going, actually. But it'd be a neat visual to see what's coming and where. I think that would be a really cool tool. I could see Will talking about it at his mayor's address, just toggle on, toggle off.
Well, I was going to say the most often use I have for these pages is to copy the link and put it in a Facebook comment.
Yep.
Because, you know, it's Facebook usually where somebody goes, what's going on with this thing? Or why haven't you guys done anything here? And I just go, okay, Stillwater.org. Here's the transportation project page. Here's the link. Here's the information that you're asking about. And that, you know, usually it's helpful to be able to have current updated information for people to just say, hey, look, we've got the information here. I don't have to go try to remember it or call Norman or Monty or somebody and say, hey, tell me what's going on with this thing. I can just say, here's the info.
Of course.
I do want to recognize quickly how much work this is, right? Because not only is it a ton of work to do the projects, it's like just as much work to keep people updated on the projects, right? To keep all the information current. I mean, I'm sitting here telling you I want it updated all the time. Well, I mean, you're trying to do the projects half the time, and then doing the updates adds another 50% in terms of time on it. So I understand and recognize the amount of work that goes into just letting us know what's happening, right, on top of actually getting this stuff done. Yeah. And so I get that, but it's so important for us to be able to let people know where their tax money is going and why they're seeing what they're seeing and all that sort of thing. So it is, I think for us, sometimes we've got to remember that it's as big of a part of a project to report on the project as it is to get the project done. And we certainly appreciate the amount of work you guys have put into to make sure that happens.
Yes, no problem.
Along that line, you know, for a number of years, we have worked, Norman has worked, and the staff and administration, to be very streamlined in our employees, number of our employees. And there have been times when it's been pretty thin. And I hope that the staff and the administration recognize that the world is changing. The citizens have different types of requirements. This type of information, accessibility to this type of information is something new that, you know, cities have not done before. The KPI project, that type of involvement with citizens is huge, a huge skill for staff to have. And we understand you can't do this by yourself, and so nobody should kill themselves meeting these expectations. This is a conversation. I can't do all this if I don't have 4 more staff or whatever. So I hope that that's a clear expectation of the council.
One other thing that we are working on that's a companion to this piece is that I get a lot of questions is, okay, you've allocated all this money, why aren't you doing something? And we have an information piece that is in development, and it's pretty far along and should be out in the not too distant future that explains why, just because the money's been budgeted, that we can't run out and spend at that moment and get projects underway.
Well, I think that's a master list that has, you know, this project is in design, this project is in planning, ground has been broken, you know, just
right.
would be a graphic.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, that takes us to item 9, resolutions. We have Resolution 2019-25, a resolution acknowledging City Council authorization and approval for the submission of an application for federal grant funding to reconstruct the apron Phase 2 south portion and replace primary airport rescue firefighting apparatus at Stillwater Regional Airport through the FAA AIP grant with a lot of numbers. Hi, Paul.
Again, Paul Priegel, I'm the director of the airport for City of Stillwater. And I've got a graphic for you, but first I'll just kind of give you an overview. So the apron at the Stillwater Regional Airport is very old and crumbly and asphalt. We started last year, if you recall, brought you phase 1 of what we believe will be 3, possibly 4 phases. We are about to start construction of phase 1, but because of the design work and the application process, the way the FAA works is they actually we work with them throughout the year to establish a 5-year plan. And of course, the apron, knowing it was such a large chunk of funds and resources for construction, it was divided up into the 4 years to try to get that all in. So we've known this was coming. So it's one of those where they haven't quote unquote awarded it yet. But what happens is we come to you at the very early onset and we ask for your approval to start going forth and doing design work, and we go to bid and all of that, and then the application is actually put in, and then it's awarded on the last thing. And so it's a little different than your traditional application, because really by the time it's awarded, it's really no surprise. They tell us right now, hey, we're going to give you $5.9 million this year. Go forth and do all your stuff that you need to make them happy as far as the documents. So this resolution really symbolizes that. Just to give you a point of reference, this is, the screens come up. There we go. Phase 1 is the yellow portion. It's currently awarded and contract and everything, and it's going to start in January. And give a point of reference, this is the main terminal. This little grayed out area is actually, this is an old aerial photo, but it's where the departure terminal is currently. And so this is going to be going on probably for about the next year. Phase 2, which is what I'm bringing to you tonight, is right here in the red. Notice that this also provides kind of the back door to the OSU Flight Center, which is due to break ground here within the next year. And for those of you that are familiar with that, know what a phenomenal just task that's going to be, and what benefit that's going to bring to everyone in the community, particularly the OSU Flight Training Center. And this currently is grass right now. And so this little path right here is the only piece of pavement out there. So this is not only going to give, obviously, the back door for the flight center, but substantially increase our parking ability. If anybody's been out on a game day, it is extremely crowded at our airport. We actually, every game this year, we've had to tell people, we're full, sorry, go park someone else. And we hate to have to do that, but that's just kind of how it is. So, and then obviously phase 3 will be next year. Also included with this grant, this year during our annual inspection, our FAA inspector told us that our fire truck was in desperate need of replacement. It is a 2000 model Oshkosh 1500. It is supposed to be replaced at 15 years, so it's pushing that beyond. And so what they've done is they've looked at our allocation for the year and said, we will let you use some of your entitlement fund, which we get $1 million a year from the FAA because of our passenger employments. We will let you use $500,000 of it. And then with our 10% match, we feel confident that we can get a new truck for about $550,000. So that's part of this, but it's all built in as one grant. And so that is where we stand right now. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Sounds good. That sounds great.
Great.
You guys are knocking it out of the park with the graphics tonight, by the way, though. I mean, seriously, it's so helpful.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, honestly, I didn't realize it was the new apron project was that big.
Yes.
Like out, because like that aerial photo where the OSU, American Airlines jet that's parked way out on the side of the airport, like that's it right there. Like we're paving that whole.
Right. And we originally were going to do phase what's marked as phase 3 first. I'm sorry, second, which would have been next. The problem with that is there's not any pavement here. When this goes under construction, they take it all out and rebuild it. So basically what would happen is we'd be down to this much. This would be complete and that was it. So now we're moving not only our commercial operations, which is right here, but every bit of parking into this area, which is not very wise. So we were able to work with the FAA and get this phase done quick first, and then phase 3 will be finished up.
How does phase 1 affect the commercial operation?
So what we're doing is within this phase 1, there's multiple phases. And so the first phase, if you can draw an imaginary line through here, if you see my mouse pointer, is going to start there. And we're going to move our commercial operations right here in this area. This will stay the existing pavement, and then they'll start working their way north. This piece right here is already there. So basically, once they get past about this point, we'll be able to move our commercial operations back. They're going to go all the way north, work their way out of the gate, and then they'll come back and finish this little middle part. We were actually very fortunate this year because the bids came in so low. We were actually able to get I can't remember what the square yardage, but it was almost 2 phases for the price of 1. So we were very fortunate to be able to do that this year. We're hoping bids continue that trend for the years coming.
Good. Thank you, Paul. Councilors, any further questions on this item, or is there a motion?
Motion to approve Resolution 2019-25.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, Resolution 2019-25 is adopted. Item 10, ordinances. We have one ordinance on second read tonight. This is Ordinance 3444, an ordinance rezoning attractive land addressed at 1199 West Airport Road from RSS Small Lot Single Family Residential District to CG Commercial General District. Councilors.
Motion to adopt Ordinance 3444.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that ordinance is adopted. Reports from officers and boards. Mr. Dorman.
Nothing to report tonight, sir.
Mr. McNichol.
2 items, sir. First, the deadline to register if you are operating short-term rental has come and gone. And we have had 15 register.
We have more than 15 Airbnbs in Stillwater.
Yeah, clearly there are more than that. We would like to tell people that they need to get in and register because we are in the process of developing.
22, evidently.
Oh, 22. Okay.
We still have more than 22
Yeah, we did.
Airbnbs in town.
Yeah. Well, that number's gone up since last week, and I apologize. But at any rate, we're in the process of working up what a prosecution is going to look like, and we would just as soon people came in and registered, and that we did not have to do that. So
if folks weren't aware and you're operating a short-term rental, you need to come talk to us about it, please.
Yes. The second item I have is that we recently received a message from Richard and Suzanne Birdwell of the Stillwater Church of Christ. They said that they'd like to commend and thank the city's water crew that came in to assist them last week with their valve issue. The crew worked into the evening on this repair, facing the cold. If you'll remember, it was freezing cold, heavy downpours of rain and wind. And this was after hours in the dark of night, and I'd like to thank Tony Smith's crew for their quick response, professionalism, and great example of public service.
That's awesome. Nice. Thank you, sir. Councilor Zanotti.
Yes, council seat number 3 is up for election for a 4-year term. Residents interested in running for Stillwater City Council can file for the election the week of December 2nd through the 4th at the Payne County Election Board between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. The spring municipal general election is February 11th, 2020. A runoff election is scheduled for April 7th, 2020, if needed. And seat number 3, I believe, is Councilor Wedlake.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. I will say, just as because I've been asked many, many times, I will be rerunning, just to put any mysteries to bed. So, but I would still urge anybody that is interested in running to please file for this seat.
Thank you all. Vice Mayor.
Yes, we'd like to welcome the city's newest hires. And this is quite a list. Pamela Darby and Devin Treat, meter readers. Randall Heiner and Jerry Burrow, courtesy officers. Amber Pope, Customer Service Representative, Mary Landolt, Jailer, Adam Daniels, Waste Management Attendant, and Christian Arvizo, Entry Maintenance Worker.
Welcome to the City of Stillwater.
Absolutely.
Councilor Wedlake.
Sir, so holidays in Stillwater are approaching quickly, in case anybody out there was in any doubt. Some events include Merry Main Street, Breakfast with Santa, and the Christmas Parade of Lights. If you want more information on these or other events, please go to stillwater.org/news to see the full list of events.
Councilor Jaloski.
If you are interested in the physical, social, and economic development of Stillwater, good news. There's a vacant seat on the Stillwater Planning Commission. You can apply for that position at stillwater.org. It's another great opportunity. We've had some community servants in here today, so another opportunity, a little longer commitment maybe, but.
Absolutely. Thank you. I have a note here that if you live outside the Stillwater city limits, you should consider signing up for a rural fire service contract. Applications begin in December, so look out for more news on that soon. That's for folks outside the city limits. We want to respond with the fire department, but you have to, if we do, there's a cost involved, and so if you have a rural fire service contract, it limits the cost of Stillwater Fire responding. So look into that, please. I will just also note that this was a good meeting. I thought we had some good things happen in terms of the first-time homebuyer and that sort of thing, and also good presentations, helpful graphics, and I appreciate all of you on staff who have worked to do that this week. So that's all I got. There is nothing else on the agenda except adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn the Stillwater City Council meeting. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the Stillwater City Council is now adjourned. At this time, I will call to order the Stillwater Utilities Authority meeting for November 18, 2019. On the consent docket, we have regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the consent docket.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Please vote. Oh, sorry. Moving too fast.
Sorry. Nope. I was going to say it voted for me initially. It knows.
With a vote of 5-0, the consent docket is approved. Under item 5, General Orders, accept the Audit Committee recommendations to approve the Stillwater Utilities Authority annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2019, SUA-19-38. Christy Cluck, how are you tonight?
Christy Cluck, Finance Director. And in your packet this evening is the Stillwater Utilities Authority Annual Financial Report for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2019. So this report was audited by our external audit firm. That audit firm did render an unmodified opinion, which is the best type of opinion that an entity can receive on their financial report. That audit letter is on pages 1 and 2 of the financial report if you would like to read it in its entirety. So the auditors also have issued an auditor communication letter, and that's also included in your packet. That is a required communication between the auditors and the governing body, and that's where they disclose the auditor's responsibilities during the course of the audit, as well as any difficulties encountered during the course of the audit, and also significant or unusual transactions or significant estimates that are used in the preparation of the report. The audit committee, the city's audit committee, met on October 29th, and they did review that financial report. They also heard a presentation from our external auditor on the outcome of the audit, as well as that auditor communication letter. So it is the audit committee's recommendation that the trustees approve the Stillwater Utilities Authority annual financial report for the year ended June 30, 2019. Are there any questions?
I have one question.
Yes.
There's a picture on probably the 4th page in of
Okay.
the electric distribution team that worked and well, the little tag says, after a storm with flooding, this crew changed a bad transformer in 3 feet of water in a timely manner with no complaints. Did the crew not complain or the citizens?
I'm not sure.
There are some great pictures.
There
in
are.
this report,
It's a
by the
great
way,
report,
including
yeah.
these guys standing in waist-deep water
Yeah.
working on power lines, which seems to me
Kind
not
of
the safest thing in the world to
Yeah.
do.
And I can't take credit for any of the pictures. That is our civic engagement and marketing department. They did a great job of that.
In line with the financial report, I think it's not surprising, but great to see the unqualified opinion and comments from the auditors that everything seemed to go very smoothly, and we expect nothing less. You guys have done a great job with finances, and we appreciate that very much. And to the audit committee for the work that they have to do in these as well.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Trustees, is there a motion on this item?
Motion to accept the Audit Committee recommendation to approve the Stillwater Utilities Authority Annual Financial Report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2019.
Second. Oh, got me too.
We have a motion and a second to accept the audit committee recommendation. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that audit is accepted. Item 5B, approve a budget amendment to pay off the remaining balance owed to Bank of America for 4 commercial and 2 roll-off waste management vehicles included in the buyback program. Chris Knight.
Good evening, Chris Knight, Waste Management Director. On April 15, 2019, the trustees approved the purchase of 9 commercial vehicles to enter into a buyback agreement for the new vehicles with Caroline Environmental and exercise the buyback option for the 6 commercial vehicles with Caroline Environmental. Tonight, I'm seeking trustees' approval to utilize the $519,006 received from Caroline Environmental for those 6 used commercial vehicles to pay the remaining lease payment balance for the vehicles to Bank of America for $501,085. Do you have any? I do have a recommendation. Do you have any questions?
Trustees?
Staff recommends to approve the payoff of the remaining balance of $501,085 to Bank of America using funds received from Carolina Environmental for the buyback of the used vehicles, approve the budget amendment, and authorize the general manager to sign all appropriate documents.
Thank you, Chris. Trustees, is there a motion?
Motion to accept the recommendation of staff to pay off the remaining balance of $501,085 to Bank of America, et cetera.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff recommendation. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is approved. That takes us to 5C, approve the trade-in of a non-operational street sweeper. The purchase of a new street sweeper from United Engines using Oklahoma State Purchasing Contract SW-191 in the amount of $180,500 and authorize the general manager to sign appropriate documents.
The Waste Management Department operates 2 street sweepers. One of the machines is in need of being replaced. The machine is only 4 years old. However, it has not been operational for a total of 1.5 years of its life, and currently is in need of an expensive repair. Staff contacted the city street sweeper vendor on the Oklahoma State purchasing contract to inquire about trading in the non-operational street sweeper for a new one. With a trade-in of $65,000 for the old one, the street sweeper will cost $180,500 and come with a complete 5-year warranty. If approved, the purchase will be made from the Waste Management Reserve Fund that has adequate funds for the purchase.
Trustees?
Any questions?
I did have just one question about this, Chris. So it says it caught fire after 2 months of being put into service. Is there any kind of warranty on these things? 2 months doesn't seem like a whole long time.
There was warranty, and I don't have a lot of details. It did catch fire 2 months after we had purchased it. I wasn't in the department at the time, so I don't have a lot of details. I don't know if you remember anything about it, Mr. Dorman.
In a while. There was an issue with the origin of the fire.
Interesting.
So was there like an insurance claim or something we make on these things?
Well, we actually looked at an insurance claim, and that it's not insured. I believe it's under our general
self-insurance.
Yes.
And self-insurance means we just buy a new one.
Right.
I know.
And here we are.
Here we are.
Your answer.
We did end up having to repair. There was a lot of electrical damage. Looking back at the records, I believe it was about $19,000 is what it cost to repair it after the fire. Since that point, we've just continued to have issues after issues, hoping we had the great hope that we could work them all out and not have to come here tonight to ask to buy a new one. You know, this machine doesn't have a lot of hours on it.
Yeah. Time to cut our losses.
That's where we're at, yes.
Yeah.
We finally called mercy.
Motion to approve the trade-in of the non-operational street sweeper, purchase of a new street sweeper from United Engines using Oklahoma State purchasing contract in the amount of $180,500.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this item. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that purchase is approved. Thank you, Chris. Next item, approve bid recommendations for purchase and installation of an emergency generator at the water treatment plant. Bill Millis, how are you tonight?
Good evening. Great, thank you. Tonight I'd like to share with you the bid results for an emergency generator for the water treatment plant. This figure shows the location for the new generator at the water treatment plant, where the number 1 is, and then number 2, the secondary work location, which is in our main pump house. Last fall was when we first, before the trustees talked about the need for the generator, and applied for a grant. And then this past summer, 2019, is when the trustees approved the grant agreement with the Oklahoma Office of Emergency Management. This is an example of a stationary or permanent generator. This one actually is ours up at the call pump station. And these are the city's strategic priorities that the project addresses. On October 30th, staff received and opened 3 bids for the project, and we got pretty favorable bid pricing. The total cost for the construction-related items for this project is estimated to be just under $3 million. That includes a construction contract, an inspection contract, and contingency. And those expenditures will be reimbursable up to 75% through the grant. And the funds, assuming approval, the funds will be appropriated from the water fund. At this, I'd be glad to try to answer any questions or move to the recommendations if you prefer.
Trustees, any questions for Bill? What does that generator run on? Is there like a natural gas line that runs out there? Or?
It's diesel.
Oh, it's diesel.
They're available either way, gas or diesel. Sometimes, though, depending on if there's an earthquake, your gas lines might be compromised. So diesel is what we've been using in the last few years.
So just a big diesel tank out there for them?
Yes. Yep. And you have to, you have to use the diesel. It gets old. You have to run it about every month to make sure it runs, and you got to run through your diesel and keep it renewed. So there's some definite maintenance.
Yeah. Okay. Trustees, anything further? Just curiosity about diesel generators.
Every time.
My dad was a diesel generator mechanic in the Army, so I passed down. What's your recommendation, Bill?
I recommend that we award the bid to the lowest responsible bidder, Crossland Heavy Contractors, in the amount of $2.605 million. Authorize staff to execute the construction contract, execute a construction inspection contract, administer the Davis-Bacon requirements through OWRB in the amount of $1,440, and authorize $2,982,584 in total project expenditures, including all the above things I mentioned, and a 10% contingency, and approve the related budget amendment.
That's not too much. Trustees, is there a motion?
Motion to accept the staff recommendation on the generator.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the bid recommendation as recommended by staff. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is approved. Thank you, Bill. Are there any reports from the officers aboard?
No, sir.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn the Stillwater Utilities Authority meeting. Please vote. The vote of 5-0, Stillwater Utilities Authority is now adjourned. This time I'll call to order the Stillwater Economic Development Authority meeting for November 18, 2019. On consent docket, we have regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from 11/4/19.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Please vote. Who didn't vote? There we go.
Not me.
With a vote of 5-0, the consent docket is approved. The only item on this agenda is appointment of the Citizen Tourism Advisory Committee.
Yes. And I'm going to ask that we extend the deadline for people to send in their applications and apply for this tourism committee to Friday, December 6th. I've still continually had people ask me about what this tourism committee entails, and I think a few of you have also separately told me that you had some. And so I think with the new year and the year is ending, I think people are starting to think about what they want to be involved with in the new year. And so I'd like to give people an opportunity to still send in applications as need be. And in reality, I don't think this committee would meet until January anyway, just due to the holiday schedule. And so I would.
You're the committee
I'm the committee chair,
and
so
you're kind of busy over this holiday season, I think.
I am. And I think we really want to ensure that this committee has a good representation of people that have some tourism background, and so I think this will give some extra time for those that have asked those questions to make that decision on whether or not they want to apply. I want to remind everyone this is a 5-member committee. We have representation from the city with the city manager, representation from Oklahoma State University, representation from Visit Stillwater, and so the 3 remaining positions would be people from the community. So I encourage people to be a part of this. And so I would make the recommendation that we have the applications due on Friday, December 6th, and then at our December 16th SEDA meeting, go ahead, nominate, and appoint those to start the new year off.
Is that a motion to table the item until December 16th?
That would be a motion to table.
Second.
I don't know that we need this motion at this time, but we'll go ahead and vote on it. So we have a motion and a second to table the appointment of that committee to December 16. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is tabled until December 16th. Thank you, Councilor Zanotti, or Trustee Zanotti in this context. And at this time, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn SEDA. Please vote. The vote of 5-0, SEDA is now adjourned.